Hey guys, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, it's theclinicaltrialsguru.com. You send in the questions, I give you the answers. We keep it anonymous. It's about as simple as that. It can get a whole lot more complicated if I start talking about all the social networks that I'm on. But choose your favorite and find me there, Dan Svera. Or just email me, dan@theclinicaltrialsguru.com. I will keep you completely anonymous. Today's another question I got. It says, hey Dan, I had a question. I wanted to bring PIs in initially as independent contractors and pay them when the site is paid by the sponsor CRO, which is what I recommend doing. Pay them a percentage of the study budget as you get paid. This is what I recommend for all new sites and even established sites. So under this scenario, they will be independent contractors. Okay, the PIs are not going to be employees of your company. They're going to be independent contractors. So here's the question. In a previous business, I ran into an issue with the IRS, everyone's favorite organization, with qualified mental health professionals who worked for me as ICs. So the IRS, and I'm not going to get into the legal reasons of this, but they do not like employers to use independent contractors. A lot of employers are abusing that. However, I don't feel in research this is abuse of the system. So a lot of people put people like secretaries or receptionists instead of hiring them outright as employees to avoid paying workers' comp, payroll tax, all that other stuff. They hire them as independent contractors, and you can't hire someone who has job duty and rigid hours that you need them to be in the clinic, structured hours that you need them to be in the clinic. The IRS will come after you. However, this does not apply to principal investigators, but the IRS does not understand this, so let me continue. It says, professionals who worked for me as independent contractors. The IRS said that the business could not instruct the independent contractor in any way as to how to perform their assigned duties, which the study protocol and site SOPs would clearly do. Now let me stop you right there, okay? Site SOPs are for your employees, okay? You may have SOPs in there on what a PI can or cannot do, but what you are hiring a PI for, what a PI is doing, the PI is responsible for the entire conduct of the trial. They're not just going off of your SOPs, they're going off of the protocol, but what they're hired to do is to provide their best clinical insights and knowledge, and bring their clinical knowledge almost as a consultant to the protocol. The only difference between them and a consultant is they are responsible for the entire conduct of the trial by FDA standards. With that being said, your SOPs, standard operating procedures, they don't need to have procedures in place for your PIs to follow. The SOPs should be for your study coordinators, whom you should never have as independent contractors unless you absolutely can't afford to hire an employee. Your SOPs should instruct study coordinators and any other staff, and they should have some vague responsibilities for a PI, but these responsibilities for the PI can qualify for independent contractor status, such as, for example, your PI does not have an actual schedule where he or she is required to come in your clinic. They're required to come in your clinic as needed. If you're not screening any subjects for a study, guess what? Your PI doesn't have to come in. This, in my opinion, qualifies as an independent contractor. Your PI is only coming in if there's work there, and they're only coming in to provide their medical, clinical judgment and expertise and background and education. That's what you're paying them for. You're paying them to conduct the trial because of their knowledge, because of their clinical knowledge, use their clinical judgment, bring their education on board, and conduct the study and have all responsibility for the study, but they can still qualify as an independent contractor. They don't have a set schedule. They don't have hours set in stone at your clinic like a study coordinator would have. So a study coordinator would be required to come in the office from 9 to 5, even if you're not screening a patient that day, because guess what? They have queries, They have other tasks, and they do have to follow your own SOPs. The PI doesn't have to follow your SOPs. PI has to follow the protocol, but the protocol is not job duties. A protocol is what the drug company creates to make sure that their study is being run the way they want it to be conducted. Protocol is not telling a PI what he should or should not do while working for your company. So hopefully that helps. I think if you give this explanation to the IRS, I mean, contact an attorney, have them watch this video, have them call me. I'm no attorney, I'm not providing legal advice, but this is how I would attack this problem if I were presented with this situation because of the IRS. And I don't think this is a case where a PI should be considered an actual employee, and it's not like your company's trying to avoid paying payroll tax. It's just you want to pay your PI based on a percentage of what the study revenue pays, and this is common. This is done in more than 50% of the cases. So you want to let the IRS know that the PI does not follow your own site SOPs. The SOPs are not written for the PI. They're written for the study coordinators who conduct the study under the supervision of the PI. The SOPs are not written for the PI to follow. The protocol is written for the PI to follow, but that's because the sponsor wants their study to be conducted under those parameters. Hopefully this helps. You should be fine with continuing to use your PI as an independent contractor. And if they're really giving you a hard time, get an attorney. This shouldn't be a difficult case. Hopefully this helps. Let me know if you need to know any more. But again, your SOPs are there in place for your site staff, your employees. They could be used as a rough guideline for your PIs, but your PI is there to make clinical judgment because no one else at the clinic has the necessary background, education, knowledge, expertise that your PI has. So there's no way an SOP can cover everything the PI needs to know, because by the sheer definition of why the PI is there, they're there to use their brain and to think outside of the box and to solve problems rather than following a recipe. And when they're following a protocol written by the sponsor, that's just to define the parameters that the sponsor wants the study to be conducted under specific requirements. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully it's not too confusing. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but this is what I would do if I was presented with this problem. Keep your questions coming in. Dan@theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Dan@theclinicaltrialsguru.com. I apologize, I haven't given my producers a shout out in a really long time, so I want to do that right now. It is, and if you're interested in being a producer, email me. Sarah Elizabeth Siegler, Resolve Research Solutions, Accurate Clinical Trials, PT&R, Erdhart Clinical Trials, Tradestone LLC, Breakthrough Clinical Trials, Kulkarni Law Firm, Biopharm Systems, Zymewire, Mozio, St. Paul Medical Research Center, Investigators Research Group, Phlebotomy Services, Atria Clinical Research Management, Rheumatic Disease Clinical Research Center, Clinexus Research LLC, Coastal Connecticut Research LLC. Thank you guys, and stay tuned for more. Dan from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.